Haaretz. Why did we lose the land? Why did we get kicked out of the land? Even if we had lost the base of English, right? Because it's seen as giving us in streams of dumbing, so we could still have been in the land. That's exactly the situation we had by Hanukkah. We lost the base of English. The Yavanim came in, threw us out of the base of English. In the time of the base of English, they didn't destroy it, but we still had Eretz Yisrael. We still had Eretz Yisrael, right? So it could have been that the base of English would have been destroyed, the first base of English. And, however, we could have still been in Eretz Yisrael, and if they were still in Eretz Yisrael, we could have still hoped that we could come back and eventually rebuild the base of English, if everything else was corrected. But once we stopped learning Torah in the proper way, which is because the Gemara says they didn't make a bracha properly on Limud Torah, they felt that Limud Torah was like any other type of a secular subject, Lahavdal Elef or Dollars. So then they lost the cheshivas, they lost the significance of Torah, the appreciation of Torah for what it really was, and therefore, right, they had to leave Eretz Yisrael as well, had to go into Gullus. So the main tshuva that we have to do, and especially people like us, Baruch Hashem, like, when we're talking to people who, Baruch Hashem, come to Shirin, and they sit and learn, and they know how to learn, and they want to learn, they want to hear from their Rebbeim. So we have to think about what kind of tshuva can we do, because if we try to relate to the Beis Hamikdash, it's a very hard job. And as I said, as I just learned last week, our real job is to cry about our sins. So most of the tshuva we're supposed to do, that's what the Chazal say, the Yerushalmi. It says any generation which the Beis Hamikdash has not been rebuilt in, it's ki'ilu, that generation has destroyed it. So we have a share in the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. It hasn't been rebuilt yet. So thinking about tshuva, and specifically tshuva in terms of learning, I was once told that the Chasam Sofer that one of the reasons why he became such a great gadol was everything he learned, he always tried to remember what he learned, something from what he was learning that relates to him specifically Lamaisa. And if you look at the Igeres Ramban, right, look at the Igeres Ramban, he says toward the end also that he says that if you're learning, you can try and apply it, right, to yourself somehow Lamaisa. Right? So again, sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. But you know what you can do, whatever you're learning, what you can do Lamaisa is you can try and learn it in a way you'll be able to teach it over to somebody else. That's something Lamaisa. To teach, right? To teach it. So whatever you're learning the Silas Yesharim, you're learning the Gemara, you're learning Halakha, if you can learn it well enough that you can say it over and explain it to somebody else. So you never know, you're sitting on a bus, you're in an elevator, you're on a plane, right? You're walking on the street. Just have it off the top of your head, try and have it packaged in a good way. You can say it over to somebody. It doesn't have to be a whole shear of 2 hours worth or a 20-minute thing. It could be a 2-minute thing. Sometimes people are more happy to get 2 minutes of what you have to say than 20 minutes of what you have to say. Right? So if you can say that, that's a tremendous new attitude you can try and apply to our learning. And that's a type of tshuva that is worthwhile to do, because if you can influence somebody to know something more about Torah, the more people know about Torah, the way it should work, the way it should be. If it's sweet, it should really be sweet enough that people will want to try and learn and know more. So there's something enjoyable, something shma. That's why on Tisha B'Av we're not supposed to learn, right? Torah is supposed to be so wonderful, so delightful for us that whether we're mourning for the Beis Hamikdash or mourning, as I learned recently, mourning for our own sins, so we can't take our mind. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says many, many times. We've been Baruch Hashem learning the halachas, the laws in the Geya to Tisha B'Av in the 3 weeks. It says time after time after time, the siyach das from the Avelis. What you can't do is take your mind off the mourning, off the grief that you're supposed to be having. And as it turns out now, we're supposed to be mourning over ourselves, right? Where's the lack in ourselves, right, that the Beis Hamikdash still hasn't been rebuilt? Why am I not learning if, in fact, that the reason we were sent into Golas, and the first Golas, even though we came back from Babel, and the Beis Hamikdash was rebuilt, it wasn't the same. The Gemara brings describes the situation that after the 70 years in bubble, when the Kaiser came back, those who did come back, and not everyone came back, Ezra was not very happy with Klal Yisrael, that not everyone chose to come back. A lot of people chose to, after 70 years in bubble, a lot of people were very comfortable there. They didn't want to come back to Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael was not an easy nor a friendly place. There were people here in Eretz Yisrael were not interested in Jews coming back, and there were a lot of wild animals around that weren't interested in, or let's put it this way, they were interested in having meals, right, in the easy way, and getting a person if they could. So it wasn't an easy thing to leave your settlement in bubble and come back to Eretz Yisrael. So those people who did come back, they were praised, and they were great, very great people. And with a lot of mysterious nefesh, they built the Beis Hamikdash again. And finally, when the Beis Hamikdash was rebuilt and they inaugurated the second Beis Hamikdash, the Gemara describes the situation that those people who came back from bubble, there were two groups. Right? There were the younger group, and they were very happy, tremendously happy. We had a new Beis Hamikdash. And there was an older group. You can imagine. These people were 70 years in bubbles. How old could they be? Maybe they were 10 years old when they went to Golos. So that means they're 80 years old. Okay? 80 years old. And it says, the Gemara says, that the people who were younger were much more. They were roved. There were many more people than the minority of people who are older people. The older people, how many people of 80 years old could there be coming up out of bubble? Right? A minority. And yet, the cries of the people who came out of bubble, who were older, their crying was greater than the joy and overpowered the glee of those who saw the Beis Hamikdash Sheni being rebuilt, because they who came out of bubble and were in Eretz Yisrael and saw the Bayis Rishon, they knew what the Bayis Rishon used to be, and the Bayis Sheni brought tears to their eyes to see what the replacement was. They were crying, and their cries were so great they overpowered the glee that the younger ones had because they had a Beis Hamikdash. So we have the second Beis Hamikdash that was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam. Sinas Chinam. How does Torah relate to? How can our tshuva with Torah relate to the Sinas Chinam? Torah has the power to change everything about a person. The Gemara has a question. What's greater? Learning itself, or doing things l'maisa, fulfillment of the mitzvahs? And the Gemara says the excellency of Torah lies in the fact that you're learning it. Gadol Torah yoseh min ha'maisa. Torah is greater than maisa. Learning Torah is greater than doing. Why? Because Torah, right, is mainly the maisa. Torah brings you to doing. So, I mentioned this before. Hashem the Maharal in Prague. He explains it. Most of the portion explain this Gemara in a way that he's not happy with. The standard explanation is by learning, right? You'll know what to do. If you don't learn, you don't know what to do. But the problem with that, the Maharal in Prague says, if that's going to be the case, so what's the excellency? What's the Torah yoseh min ha'maisa? What's the greatness, the excellency of Torah more than that, of doing? Because if it's that what you learn, you'll be able to do, so that the Havdil is going to be like any other secular subject, the Havdil. A person wants to become a carpenter, he'll learn about wood, and picking saws and hammers and nails and all these type of things, and he'll get bored. You want to become a dentist, you'll become a dentist. You want to become a lawyer, you'll become a lawyer. So you want to learn about, right, doing mitzvahs, you learn Torah, you will do the mitzvahs, right? So Maharal is not happy with that explanation. He rather says that Torah, the excellency of Torah is that it supersedes everything in a way that's beyond just the physical cause and effect of learning and doing. That Torah changes a person. Changes a person in a way that if you're learning, for example, you're learning about the halachos of the 3 weeks. That learning, when you understand the beauty of how Torah fits in, right, and you relate not only intellectually, but you have your heart involved. He's learning to know Aaron Gadol, his name was Shmuel Shechter, Kaddish Baruch, he learned in Kelm and in Mir in Europe. He said he never heard the expression interesting mentioned in terms of their learning. He never heard, this is interesting swords, and interesting ideas, and interesting halacha. You didn't hear that type of talk in the yeshivas in Europe, right? And I always say, to explain it further, tomorrow night you're sitting at the Shabbos table, right, and you're eating your chicken soup, and your wife asks you, how do you like the chicken soup? You say, interesting. If she doesn't get up and walk away from the table,
start raining soup.
Yeah, you're gonna have soup all day. It's gonna be a very interesting shirt you're gonna be wearing in a minute.
To say it's super.
That's right. It's beyond interesting is the intellect, right? Torah can't just be you involve the heart, right? The heart's in you involve the mind is involved with it. That's no question about it. That's not the ikr, right? The ikr is that you have to be completely involved. The heart's working, the intellect, the heart, everything that when you're learning the harav, no, the sweetness of Torah is you're in full gear. You're using all your capabilities, everything you are. The lev and the neshama are working together. The moach and the seichel, everything's working together in a way that that's what he created us for. That's how he created us. Like I said at the beginning, you look at Shabbos, it looks like any other day of the week in terms of Gashmis. You look at a Jew, it looks like another human being, Lahavdil. But a Ruknis is completely different, right? Try and teach a non-Jew Torah, it's not going to go because it doesn't have the cabling. It's like a computer that has a modem in it, and a computer doesn't have a modem in it. If it's got a modem, it can connect, right? Connect to all kinds of things, good things, bad things, whatever. It connects. If there's a computer, it still can do a lot of things, right? It can add things, and subtract things, can do things. It can do a lot of things with a computer that doesn't have a modem, but it's not anywhere. It's a different dimension if it's got a modem than if it doesn't have a modem. So a Jew, he's got a modem, he's got a direct connection to a Kaddish Baruch, right? And the biggest connection is through our Torah. So we have a Benizmanim, a few weeks of, like what Rebbe said, Zitzal, he said, Limud Torah is not a mitzvah asay b'zman groma, meaning that people shouldn't think that because it's Benizmanim, they're part from Limud Torah. Limud Torah is every day, right? As they say, the person, he has to eat, he has to sleep, has to daven, whatever else he has to do. So if he's basically occupied with these things, so he has a heter not to learn. But any free minute he has, he's obligated to learn. Just like in Tisha B'Av, they say it's not that you're usher to learn Torah. No, it's mutter to learn Torah. You're obligated to learn Torah, but it's just a question of what you can learn, right? A bit of a machlokus in the person exactly if that's true or not. There's machlokus. Most days are the opinion that you're obligated to learn Torah. We say Berachos Torah in the morning, just like we do every day. The same thing saying that. That's a proof that we must be obligated in learning Torah as well. So, just like on Tisha B'Av, we have to learn on Ben Ismail as well. And Tu B'Av, I'll just maybe close with a few minutes about Tu B'Av. It's very significant that Tu B'Av, as the Gemara says, along with Yom Kippur, were two of the greatest, wonderful days of the calendar with Klal Yisrael. What's so great about Tu B'Av? Very short explanation is, as the Hakam Shlomo explains in the Svarim, he explains that Tu B'Av represented the change in the time of the calendar where the influences of Esav come to their end, and now the influences of the Jews of Yaakov begin. Right? This is tied to the halakha we mentioned at the very beginning of our halachas in Tisha B'Av, that a person, if he has a court case with a non-Jew during Av, the first person is machlokas, how long in Av? All the whole month of Av till Tu B'Av or until Tisha B'Av. Should he try and get out of the court case? Because the Jews' power of success is not as great as if it isn't going to be another time. Because Esav was very strong at that time. So Esav, we know, has the koyach of the sword, and Yaakov has the koyach of Torah. So at the time of Tu B'Av, that's a change in the cycle of the year, where the koyach of the Torah is now at its beginning strength. So therefore, we're supposed to make use of that, and as the Gemara says, that a person who he adds onto his Torah beginning from Tu B'Av, he'll be added on to life, right? The person who sees it, because why? Because the night's now getting longer, right? You look at the calendar, the times of sunset and sunrise, the days are getting shorter again, and the nights are getting longer, and the nights are the real time we're supposed to try and learn Torah. So a person is supposed to take this as a signal that it's now time to begin using those extra minutes that he has at night for what? To learn. Right? When the days were long, people are out in the fields in general working, doing whatever they're doing, and times when we didn't have electricity 24 hours a day, people would come home and they'd rest at night and come home at night and they'd be able to learn. During the day they had activities. So at night is the time to, as I'll say, is the time to learn Torah. So even with Tu B'Av, it's the opportunity for us to increase our Torah, and that's the beginning of our Ben Izmanim, as they say, and that'll be beginning and a start for preparation for Elul. And as we say, that Elul is going to be the preparation for the Rosh Hashanah. And so what we're doing now, what we're experiencing now, is the beginnings of the foundations of the new year. You can take the tshuva that we can do on Tisha B'Av regarding our own Torah. And as I said, is a good suggestion. Try and just think about learning, when you're learning about how you can probably teach this over to somebody in some even simple way, right? The simpler the better, right? Whatever it may be, even if it's just a pasuk, Rashi and Chumash, whatever it might be, one small halacha, if you could just capsulize it in your mind, set that out as you go. But the Kadosh Baruch will certainly give you that Siyata D'Shmaya to be able to do it. If you do that every day, as I once heard from Shimon Schwab, I'll close with this, that there's a halacha in the book of Shabbos. There's a base medrash and there's storing all over, so it's a question whether they're considered the teruvas or not, whether they can pick them up all around and put them on the shelf, whether it's mutter or us. So my sense of machlokas, if you want to be machmir, so to get out of the sekis, to play it safe, what you do is you pick up every sefer or strad, as Sal said in Washington Heights, you read something from the sefer, right? You read one or two lines from the sefer. As soon as you pick it up, you can put it on the shelf. Go around, you can clean up the whole base medrash that way. And he says, besides that, you become a big Talmud Chacham as well. Right? So you see, if it's just you don't have to sit there and you have a big thing to do. You just learn one or two lines, one Rashi, one Chumash. You pick that up one here, two. The Medrash Tanchuma says you learn 2 halachas a day, and after that you become a big Talmud Chacham. So it doesn't matter where we start. It's been where we end off, and Mitzvah Shem. Hope to see everyone on Rosh Chodesh Elul. Mitzvah Shem.
First day Rosh Chodesh Elul is Rosh Hashanah. So.